Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's poppin', Fantasy Champions?
What's going on?
I feel like I haven't had a bubbly on the show in a while. Ever since that commenter complained about me sipping.
Yeah, I think you're the only one missing the bubbly. Not too
It missed
but,
opportunity, dude. Missed opportunity and sponsorship.
No,
I gotta.
It'll come back. It'll come back. Don't worry.
Welcome to Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. What's poppin', my dude?
What's up, dude?
Today, as you can see in the name of the episode when you clicked on it, we are talking about the most consistent running backs of the 2020 fantasy football season. Now, I figured we were going to go a little bit, because next week was supposed to be the Combine. What are they doing, like, anything?
They had,
Combine.
I'm not sure. I know they're having pro days.
Doing, they're not I looked up Combine and I got like
Combine harvester.
Yeah. So yeah, I think everyone's gonna like meet up. They're gonna do measurements and then that's it. But I'm not sure if that's the case.
I'm not even sure they're doing that.
So
I think that was their plan. I know they're having pro days. Like Trevor Lawrence had his pro day already.
NFL changes 2021 scouting combine format because of COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure what they're doing, but you're reading over it.
Well, anyway, what did I go right past it?
Yeah,
Is that what you were saying, dude?
No, I was just saying they're having pro days.
In a memo by ESPN that was sent Monday to NFL executives, obtained by ESPN, athletic trainers, team physicians, and head coaches, the NFL outlined the format to this year.
They're just saying that they're changing the format, but they're not saying in the article what they change. See, these are stuff you probably should look up before the show if we're going to talk about it, but
it's all right.
Whatever. I know at least.
Anyway, so next week, after we're going to do most consistent running backs today, most consistent wide receivers on Thursday, skipping out on some of our mock draft content lately. And then on Tuesday of next week, we'll do wide receivers and quarterbacks and tight ends, I should say.
Yes.
So today's running backs, Thursday's wide receivers, Tuesdays is quarterback and tight ends of next week. And then we're going to go into some draft content, kind of.
A little bit.
Was 8 weeks at the start of March until the draft, I believe, because it starts at the beginning of April.
Yeah, there's still a lot of guys that I haven't looked at yet that I want to.
Yeah, so we'll scout some guys out for you, give us our favorite guys. I think it's our top dynasty rookie running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks, all that stuff over the next month or so. Give you some analysis on that. And then once the draft actually happens, because we're going to probably talk about dynasty a lot in the next 2 months, once the draft actually happens, we'll jump into
landing spots and stuff.
Yeah, some actual recap.
Free agency starts in a month too, right?
Yeah, that's probably going to be a part of our show.
Does it start March 1st? Is that when free agency starts?
No, I think it's March 17th.
Oh,
but that could be wrong. I literally searched it.
I have no idea. You would know better than me with that one.
Yeah, hold on. NFL. See, this is like you said. You look this stuff up before the show.
Look at that.
March 17th. See, nailed it. I got the calendar in my brain. The whole NFL calendar.
It's still like a month away. So
I read the CBA daily. I'm just kidding. That would be psychopath. If I did that would be like the most over-compulsive football thing. You would have been like, that's enough.
Yeah, like go outside, take a walk.
You need to relax. I've been watching nothing but like film and highlights every Sunday since the season ended, which is one.
Really?
Just scrolling through withdrawal from the NFL. It's ridiculous.
It's literally a week since
it wasn't
football.
until you came over today that I actually realized that there's like no sports on besides basketball and
hockey. Yeah,
hockey
for a little while.
So anyway, most consistent running backs today from the 2020 season. Then we're gonna put the 2020 season behind us and move forward. Is the point of that whole 5-minute monologue. Check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter at the FFChamps, on Instagram at thefantasychampions. You can like us at facebook.com/thefantasychampions. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, any other platforms, leave a review, share this podcast with your friends, and then subscribe.
Yes.
Subscribing is like huge to help the brand.
It's clutch.
Just do that. And then on YouTube, right? For us to unlock the YouTube algorithm, you have to comment. I like the likes. The likes are nice.
Subscribing's nice.
We get 10, 12 likes a video. But subscribing is very nice. But you should also comment down below anything, any thoughts you have about us, how ugly we are, or
where's the bubbly? Why is the bubbly
there? That laugh was speak for yourself. So you comment down below any questions you have, anything, because that will get our video in front of more people, and the more people we have, the more content we can provide to you.
Yes, exactly.
So let's jump into our most consistent running backs from the 2020 fantasy football season. I put 2021, so we're just jumping.
Bro, how are you going to call yourself ugly with that fire new haircut?
Oh, thanks. They cut off. I love my barber, but they cut off a little bit much.
Too much?
No. I don't even know which way to flip it when I'm looking at the camera. All right, so let's jump into our 12. See, somebody's going to comment now that we are flirting with each other again, and that's not good for the look of the brand, my friend.
Bro, come on, don't hate.
Don't hate. Anyway, let's talk about some consistent running backs. Yeah. So we did this based on 12 games, so they had to play 12 games. So if there's guys on this list that you're like, well, this guy played 9 games, he should be
Christian
on the
McCaffrey.
list. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey should be on this list because all 3 games he was excellent. So we started our most consistent, or not our most consistent, we started our consistency charts, sort of, kind of, and worked through some of that information. And we came up with what we have here. So we do have some bust percentages for you. And we also have, I just completely erased a name on a spreadsheet.
Oh, it's Jonathan Taylor too. You got it back.
I got Jonathan Taylor back. Okay. So anyway, we're going to give you bust percentages. We're going to give you how good they were in, different formats and stuff like that. Yeah. So we're going to start with, I was thinking about starting from top to bottom, but we'll start from top to bottom. I was thinking about starting bottom to top.
Yes, do whatever you want. I'll follow your lead.
Top to bottom is what we're actually going to do.
Okay.
I meant to say bottom to top. And then when I went to go say the other way, now I'm just confusing everything. Yeah. All right, so 1 on the list is Dalvin Cook. He had a 93% of the time, he finished with 11 points or more. Now, I think it was around 11 to 17 for running backs, at least for me, was the average RB2 finish. And 17 or more points was an average, like, RB1 finish, I believe. So we can just kind of say that's like RB1, RB2 percentages, but don't yell at me if I say that incorrectly. So anyway, if you combine the RB1, RB2 percentages or finishes, that gives you what our percentages of 93% of the time the guy performing well. The percentage in and of itself, just to explain it, is kind of, you want at least a quality or a good performance from a player.
Yeah.
You don't want to have them, have 3 games where they're just really good and then they're garbage.
Exactly. Yeah. There's some players that will have crazy big weeks.
Tyreek Hill.
Sorry, what was it?
I said Tyreek Hill.
Not this
or Alvin
year,
Kamar,
but
both of them had 56-point outings, bro.
But after that 56-point game, they consistently got like 15.
No, you're right.
But no, remember like 2 years ago, Tyreek Hill had 3 or 4 games where he had like 40 points, like 30 points.
Oh yeah, and everyone was like, draft him, and I was like,
And then he
was good in like 2 games.
Yeah, the rest of the season he had like under 10 points. But there's players like that usually.
That was before patty cakes.
Yeah, that's true. Some to a higher degree than others, like Tyreek Hill or Alvin Kumar, would be on the high end. So they're good anyway.
Right.
But then there's some guys like, was it Brandon Cooks? Who was a receiver who had like a few big weeks and then just dropped. Oh, Christian Kirk, remember? He had like 2 or 3 major weeks in a row and then dropped off the face of the earth.
Sounds like...
yeah, they're important stats to look at.
It's that guy from the Eagles, Travis Fulgham.
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't really his fault, though.
Yeah, no, it's true. So just to give you a clear indication, so he played, I believe, 14 games, Dalvin Cook.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
He had 13 games where he was a RB2 or better, and then he had 8 games where he was a RB1 or better. So, which is 57% of the time. I believe that ranks as the number 1 running back in the league when it comes to great performances or RB1 performances.
Yeah.
So obviously Dalvin Cook, you can anticipate that he's at the top of the list, but I believe he didn't finish as the RB1, did he?
No, I think Kamara did.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think I don't remember, did we do a show on recapping the season and we talked about how Dalvin Cook is the RB1 or E1 running back of the year? Was that what we did?
We did.
Yeah,
we did have something like that.
So Dalvin Cook, to me, over the course of the season, was the best fantasy football running back in the NFL. Like, I will not take that take back because Alvin Kamar won fantasy championships on the 56-point outing.
Yes.
So he's fantastic.
And he was great as well when in the beginning of the year before Breeze got hurt.
Yeah.
So like up to that point, plus the 56-point game, I think he was the best running back. But that time that Taysom Hill was quarterback,
he was just not good.
He just wasn't that great. He was getting like 10 points a week at best. So I agree with you. I think Cook was the best guy.
Yeah, I think moving forward, obviously there are some changing variables. He only busted once, by the way, which is if you want a percentage, it doesn't really matter to me. But 7% of the time, I believe he got hurt.
That was one game. Yeah.
So yeah, he just.
I was looking it up,
bust.
dude. It was so random. He did not get hurt in that game.
Oh, he didn't.
He just didn't. It was
that against Chicago?
No, it was against Carolina. A great matchup. Look at it, a darker green matchup, and he did actually. He might have got hurt. He only played 62% of the snaps.
Okay.
But yeah, he had 18 carries for 61 yards. Carolina just shut him down.
They just get blown out of that game by Carolina. How embarrassing.
Did they? I don't know.
But anyway, yeah. So Dalvin Cook, obviously, I mean, the hard part for me, there was some weird reports we got today that the Carolina Panthers were thinking about. Speaking of Carolina Panthers, they want to trade everything away for Deshaun Watson, first round picks, and Christian McCaffrey and everything. So, if Christian McCaffrey does leave Houston, does that make leave Carolina, go to Houston in some kind of trade? Does that make Dalvin Cook the running back one fantasy?
It might. Because it's like if Houston trades for McCaffrey, you would think they'll use him the same as in Carolina.
I don't know about that.
You would think
they might. Oh, see, he didn't change any of his the way they utilized him did not change with the new coach, which is what I.
That's
thought
what I'm saying. Because it's like at this point, McCaffrey is such a big name in the NFL that teams are going to be like, we got to use him this way.
Yeah, it depends on what coach. Or what their offensive coordinator wants to do.
But like, I feel like he'd get like Houston trades for David Johnson, and next year they trade for Christian McCaffrey. It's like, what are you doing? But
so yeah, Dalvin Cook tops the list at 1. Do you have any outstanding thoughts on Dalvin Cook? Do you want to reference? Because this is probably like the second to last time we'll talk to him about him all offseason.
I think he was great. Like you said, and we were talking about earlier. I think he was the best, most consistent running back throughout the season. For this upcoming year, I'm 100% taking him in redraft. I am on the fence about him in Dynasty, though.
Why?
Just because of injury history.
Okay.
And he's 25. I think. Does he turn 26 this year?
Oh, wow.
Which he's still in the prime of his career. Mm-hmm. But like he's got like what you say, when running backs hit like 27, 28, they kind of just fall off, right? Yeah. So I'm not sure how much longer, but he's still. I mean,
he's a guy. If you have a team, running backs only last. You trade for him.
Running backs only last so long anyway. So even though I think he has like 2 years left in his prime, that's still 2 years. You know,
right.
I'm on the, but for redraft for sure, I'm all on board for Dalvin Cook.
Yeah. So just to give you the final numbers here, RB2 performances, generally speaking, 36%. RB1 performances, 57%, I believe, highest in the league.
Yeah.
And then he obviously was the most consistent running back that you could have on your team. For me, redraft, it's an easy draft pick, and I feel like he's gonna get like it. Despite the fact that he's had 2 very good years, I feel like people are just gonna sleep on him again. And when I say sleep on him, I mean sleep on him in like 3 picks, because Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, even Alvin Kamara in some leagues were going ahead of Dalvin Cook, and he was like going 5, 6, maybe 7 in some leagues. And it was like that the year before. And there's no reason. I mean, Dalvin Cook does miss time because of injury sometimes, but it's like, it's not worth sitting there and overthinking it. Like, just draft him. If he's there and he's the most consistent running back 2 years running, like, just freaking, it's easy. It's easy money to draft the guy in redraft. The second guy on this list who I'm slightly more concerned about moving into 2021 is Alvin Komari, 93%. Same exact number as Dalvin Cook in terms of RB1 and RB2 performances. The difference is he was an RB2 on the high end a majority of the time, 53% of the time, whereas he had only like 6 great performances of 17 more points or more on the season, and one of those was 56 56 points. And he had 40% of those games where he scored 17 points or more. So, and he only busted once. So he was consistent last year, but his issue remains the same of he wasn't like, I feel like besides the 56-point game, like if you take that out and he had another quality performance, he would have had 9 games where he just scored like 10 to 17 fantasy points.
Yeah.
And I'm like, does that, to me, like those are good performances and those get the job done. But like, does it, when you look at that, does that feel good? Knowing that he doesn't get you those like 30, 40 point performances, almost not 30, 40,
yeah,
20 plus point performances on a weekly, like Dalvin Cook might.
Yeah. It's definitely a little bit more concerning compared to Dalvin Cook. I agree with you on that. And then going forward as well, with Breeze gone, it's that I've mentioned that so many times on this podcast, but I want to reiterate it because I think it's
you must hate Taysom Hill.
When it comes to Alvin Kamar, I do. Yes, I do. I absolutely do. I don't hate him though, bro, because I got him on 2 dynasty teams for free. So, but when it comes to Kamara, I absolutely do because he just was not involved at all with Taysom Hill, and that could change.
I think there were. Go ahead. Finish your statement. I'm gonna look up the numbers just so I don't look like an idiot.
Yeah, I mean that could change. Like Taysom Hill, that could be something that they work on in the offseason if they decide to go with Taysom Hill. But it just didn't feel like he was really looking for Kamara a whole ton in the passing game. And the way Sean Payton has been using Alvin Kamara lately as well kind of scares me going forward. He loves using 2 running backs. Absolutely loves it. Kamara gets majority of his fantasy points because of his efficiency in the passing game. You know, he has some good games on the ground, but there'll be some weeks where Latavius Murray gets more carries or just as many carries as him. I mean, look at his carries per game. 11, 14, 12, 9, 8, 13, 11, 15. How many times does he get like a 20 carry game?
That's been his whole career. Just what the
it is, but so it is, which is why the Taysom Hill thing worries me, because if his passing numbers go down and he's only getting that on the ground, he'll still be good because he's Alvin Kamar and he'll be efficient. But how good is he going to be?
Yeah. So based on the numbers that I have currently in half PPR, right? Based on what we are calling an RB2, RB1 performance, which is 11 points or more. He only busted twice in that stretch of games. So he had 10, 5, 16, and 18. So he was pretty good for 2 games once they kind of figured it out. But Rick's right. The biggest concern that you will have is over the course, like the rest of the season, you know, just to give you a clear like picture of what this looked like. He had like 8 targets, 9 targets, 14 targets, 4 targets, 10 targets, 8 targets, 13 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets through the first 10 weeks of the season before Taysom Hill came in. After Taysom Hill comes in, 1 target, 2 targets, 3 targets. And then
that Philly game gives you hope.
The coach was like, "No, you idiot. Pass it to Taysom Hill." And he targeted him 10 times.
Alvin Kamara, yeah.
And Alvin Kamara 10 times. And then it was 6 targets and 5 targets when Drew Brees came back. So the question is, are we going to see more of the 1, 2, 3 target performances? Because if that's the case and he only gets 11, 12 carries a game, that's going to be probably the biggest bust.
Huge bust,
of the 2021
season. We draft him
season.
in the top like 4.
But if you get something similar to what Drew Brees was doing with the 7, 8 targets a game, then that's Alvin Kamara. I think what a lot of people don't realize is that Alvin Kamara doesn't get his I don't believe he's had and I don't want to say this without looking it up, but I don't believe he's had a 1,000-yard rushing season in his career in the 4 years he's been in the NFL.
Yeah, people have talked about that.
And I think that to me is,
you can look at it on the bottom. He hasn't though.
Is it on the bottom?
Yeah.
Are they lying?
Oh, you went too far, bro. You went way too far. Right there.
Okay. All right. You're right. So first year of his career, 728 yards, 883 yards, 2018, 2019, 797. Last year, 932. Now, if he played 16 games, he might have reached 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. But the 2 areas where Alvin Kamar really produces are is the passing game and in touchdowns.
He consistently gets 80 catches a year.
Yeah,
like that is
look at that, 81, 81, 81.
Yeah,
he broke the mold last year.
He gets 100 targets a year too. Like
so, but that is the big thing is Alvin Kamara. Most of his fantasy points come from the passing game. Most of his fantasy points come from scoring touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And so if those two things get affected at all in 2021, that obviously will be a massive downside to him. But he is extremely consistent when getting targeted. So do you feel okay with Jameis? If it's Jameis, do you feel
I feel better.
Okay.
Feel better. I don't feel as good as it would be with Breeze, though.
Jameis is not running it into the end zone on goal line situations.
True. That's another thing. Yeah.
I'm not necessarily too worried about the passing game personally for Alvin Kamar. I'm more concerned about Taysom Hill taking the goal line work away from Alvin Kamar.
I think those are both very valid concerns.
But Kamara wasn't great last year. Not this past 2020 season, but 2019 he wasn't great. So we'll see what Alvin Kamara does moving forward. But he's the number 2 most consistent running back of the fantasy football season in 2020. Next couple guys are interesting. Nick Chubb slid right in, barely reaching the threshold of 12 games.
Yes.
He played he played in 12 total games. I believe one of those games he got hurt and didn't play and almost ripped a touchdown.
I'm pretty sure he was hurt in 2 different games.
Are you serious?
I think so.
Okay, check it out. But Nick Chubb had 2 games where he was a bust and 10 games where he was quality or great. And that's 83% of the time, I believe. He had 5 great games, 17 points or more.
No, I think it was only 1.
5 games between 11 to 17 points.
You know what's crazy about Nick Chubb? So you said he had 2 games where he was 2 games where he was considered a bust.
Yeah.
The one was he was injured in, and he was doing. He had 6 carries for 43 yards in that game, in the first quarter.
Yeah, he probably would have killed
it. And then the only other game that he busted in was the first game of the season where they had no idea what they were doing, and they were getting killed, so they didn't use him a lot. But he had 10 carries for 60 yards in that game and a fumble.
He might be one of the most top 12 underrated running backs in fantasy football.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are just they don't want to take the leap on Nick Chubb, and he doesn't have injury problems besides missing 4 games this year.
Yeah.
Besides this year, I'm trying to find.
I think it's the Kareem Hunt thing.
Why after this year? Why would that be a concern?
I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be a concern.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's gonna get hyped up again, and if not, I'll gladly take him again in the second round or the end of the first round.
Yeah,
because I think he should be right there with these guys. That he should probably go around 5th overall.
Yeah, right now,
5th or 6th.
This will probably change.
He's 8 right now.
Nick Chubb is 8.
Yeah,
and if I'm drafting 8 and Nick Chubb is on the board,
love it.
I'm smashing the button. I mean, he's really good. It makes me angry physically that Kareem Hunt is there. A, because I think Kareem Hunt deserves a starting job elsewhere, and B, because he's destroying Nick Chubb's full-time passing game value.
Yeah. When he came back from injury, though, he was 18, 11, 25, 17, 23, 13, 15, 16. There was no game where he got 30, but he was consistently getting you 11 to 22, 23 points every week.
I mean, I'm all over the Nick Chubb train.
I'm glad you're joining.
I was always there. You love Nick Chubb more than I love AJ Brown.
Yeah, I'm a big Nick Chubb.
I've successfully traded for AJ Brown in 2 leagues, dynasty leagues. So just I'm keeping track.
Really?
Yeah. So anyway, Nick Chubb is number 3 on this list. Do you have any more thoughts on Nick Chubb?
I mean, I could talk about Nick Chubb for days, so that's true. Bypass.
I think out of the 3 guys that we just talked about, 3 most consistent running backs, I believe Nick Chubb on a points per game basis. Where did he end up?
It would be between him and Cook. I'm not sure. Well, actually, Kamar too. I'm not sure.
He had taking McCaffrey off.
Yeah, Cook and Kamar were still 1, 2.
2, 3, 4, 5. So Nick Chubb was 5th in points per game. If you take Christian
and that includes 2 games that he pretty much didn't play. So
he's extremely consistent. I think there is concern for me that there are going to be games where he just poops himself. But
sure.
I don't think it's going to be that bad of a situation. I think he's going to be more similar to the Dalvin Cooks and Alvin Kumar. I mean, if he can stay healthy for a full season and play like he just did,
he'll be RB4 or 5.
Yeah, he'll be RB4 or 5, right around where Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara finished this year.
Between those three guys, for redraft, I'd probably still go Cook 1.
Okay.
And then Chubb 2, Kamara 3.
Okay. Let's move on to the next guy, number 4 on our list. Derrick Henry came down a little bit in terms of percentages. As an RB1 and an RB2, he finished 75% of the time as an RB1 or an RB2. 50% of the time I believe it was 50% of the time with 17 points or more. 8 games he had with 17 points or more. 4 games he had 11 to 17 points per game where he was an RB2, and then he just straight up busted 4 times. That comes with the territory with Derrick Henry when you draft him. He's extremely good. He gets the ball a lot.
Does get the ball a lot.
He got 300 carries, I believe.
Yeah,
something like
in
that.
week 17 in a must-win game, he got 34 carries against Houston.
Gross, dude. So the big thing about Henry, fantasy football wise, is that I think you can safely say that with the workload that he gets, he's going to get like 75% of the time an RB1 or 2 performance. There are going to be weeks in games for him, especially when you see this number of 4 busts. There are going to be weeks where the Tennessee Titans fall behind in games and they just physically have no capability of using Derrick Henry. I continue to believe that if Derrick Henry had any form of ability to catch the football, even remotely close to like what Christian McCaffrey can do or Alvin Kamara can do, half of that, he would be the RB1 in fantasy football. Like easy money. It's just he gets held back by the fact that he can't pass catch. And those catches, I'd rather have a running back that gets 300 touches on the, like Alvin Kamara, who gets 170, 180 touches on the ground and 100 touches through the air. You know what I mean?
He had a career high in catches this year, bro.
What was it?
19.
No, tell me how many fantasy points that is. 11? Good God. Yeah, that's bad. In half PPR. So I feel like yes, he gets 300 touches, but I would much rather have a guy who gets like 80 catches. Where
But do you care if he only gets
fantasy points from, or not 160? You get an extra 40, 50 fantasy points from catches.
Yeah,
But
would you care if he only gets 19 catches if he gets 378 carries?
That's absurd.
Because that's what he did this year.
I know. I mean, in the context,
is he going to get 378 carries again next year?
Probably not. I would venture to say no.
I think he'll probably get 300.
But I think
he did that the year before.
I think the busts come from the fact that he just can't be utilized in the passing game. So when they fall behind and they need to pass it, it's just they lose the ability to use one of their best weapons.
Yeah.
So I drafting Derrick Henry in the future, you're going to get, I don't know how many years this is going to happen.
If I had Derrick Henry in Dynasty,
he's due for an injury, but
I would be selling him so hard. I don't own him in any Dynasty leagues, so I don't have to worry about it. But like, I'd be trying to get rid of him very much. He's 27 years old and he's had back-to-back seasons with like this past year he had almost 400 carries, and the year before that he had 300 plus. And like I said, at the age of 27, like you're kind of approaching the end of your prime. Like he in redraft, like I think this year they're still going to use Derrick Henry, like Derrick Henry. He's going to get 300 plus carries, but then after this year, like
he just can't continue.
He might fall off a cliff.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, he's going to get the opportunity still.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said for this year, I think he's still.
Yeah. And then the final guy we have is James Robinson. Surprising player this year. He ended the season as the RB rankings wise, the RB
like 6 or
seven,
something like that.
7 through 17 weeks. So yeah, he finishes the RB7 on the season. He was 71% of the time with 11 points or more, or an RB1 or RB2 finish. So he was very good, consistently right in that top 15 range every single week. He did have more RB2 finishes, high-end RB2 finishes than he had RB1 finishes. Mm-hmm. The RB1 finishes he had actually were really good ones. So, it ended up moving him into that top 10, caliber running back. So I don't know for the future with him. Like if he's the guy, he's obviously consistent. in that offense with Jacksonville. They moved on from their coaching staff, correct?
Completely, yes.
Okay, so with that being said, I there's a couple of things about James Robinson that concern me. I would love to believe that he can continue to move forward as a big-time running back in the NFL and be a workhorse. I don't know what the Jacksonville Jaguars coaching situation looks like, and I don't know if they're going to continue to utilize a workhorse role for him or an RBBC. If they're going to bring in another running back, the effect of Trevor Lawrence on the offense, right? So it's like there's so many variables with James Robinson. I just don't know what his future is going to look like moving into the 2021 season. I mean, he was great. This season was one of the top 5 most productive backs and most efficient and consistent backs in the league. But as of right now, it is very, very concerning looking into the future of James Robinson to me.
So, yeah, they're...
Ooh, Darrell Bevel likes to feed.
Yes, he's their offensive coordinator, their new one. Urban Meyer is the head coach, who has stated before that he really does like James Robinson. But there are so many questions with James Robinson. But I think a lot of them, the good thing is, for redraft especially, I think a lot of them are going to probably be answered throughout the offseason. We obviously won't know until we see it and how they play it out. But, like, are they going to add a running back?
Right.
Are they going to, like, add offensive line? What's the situation look like for the team in general? So, because they have a lot of picks and a lot of money. So, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I do like James Robinson still because if and it is a big if, but if Jacksonville uses him the same way, and they improve the offensive line, and you go from Mike Glennon to Trevor Lawrence, and maybe you add a receiver, like, that team is going to be really good. And James Robinson did what he did last year with pretty much
Gardner Minshew.
I know, right? One of the worst offensive lines in the league, like bottom 10 at least.
Yeah,
they weren't like the worst, but it was a bottom 10 offensive line.
If James Robinson is the starting running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars, they didn't add anyone to their offense as far as running backs go, and you have Trevor Lawrence, you Darrell Bevel as the offensive coordinator, and Urban Meyer, is that what you said? Head coach?
Urban Meyer's head coach.
Where do you draft? It's draft week, a week before the season.
He's
for us.
probably...
Where are you going with James Robinson?
Where did we take him in our mock? Like 10, 11, 12?
Yeah. He's
probably going to be like around... I'd probably take him like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
If that's like best case scenario, though.
Okay. I do think there's a lot of scenarios where they might like him, but they would also bring in somebody else.
I think they have to bring it, like, because their second running back was Chris Thompson last year.
Oh, they're definitely going to bring in somebody else.
They're going to bring in, them, like, draft somebody.
Remember those old men we were talking about on the free agent show?
Oh, somebody like him. See, but I wouldn't mind that if Jacksonville still uses James Robinson.
Yeah.
If they bring in like an old man running back, just so he's like kind of his mentor
or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Mark Ingram. Like, I wouldn't. That to me, that doesn't affect.
That wouldn't scare
James
me.
Robinson. Yes.
What would scare me is if they go out and draft a running back.
Is it
or they bring in like Aaron Jones or something? Like
I
that
wouldn't mind if they drafted a running back, but it depends on what round.
Okay.
You use a top.
I mean, if they use like a 4th round pick on,
right,
it could go either way. Like Justice Hill was drafted by the Ravens, it could have gone either way with him.
Right.
So
if they take one in like the 4th round, I won't be scared. 3rd round, kind of nervous, and then 2nd round or 1st round, 100% nervous. But is it sad to say that Frank Gore scares me more than like any other old man running back?
It's not Adam Gase, so no.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so he happened to be the 5th most consistent running back in fantasy football.
He's going to be an intriguing player to watch, man, this year with Trevor Lawrence in that offense.
I'm curious to see Trevor Lawrence.
I am too. Jacksonville, it's so weird to say that the Jaguars would be an interesting team to watch, but they're going to be.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting because James Robinson, like if you go, game by game with him, he's just very surprising. Like I was the first couple weeks of the season, I was like, okay, this is not. Everyone was fighting over whether it was going to be a Zigbo or with the other guys.
What I will say with Robinson though, he did have a very easy schedule this year too.
Okay, fair enough.
He did also have an easy schedule, but. I mean, he did okay in the games that were like Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. He had like 5 yards of carry.
Yeah.
Or no, he had 4.3, but he did okay.
Yeah, he just had some. I think too the big thing for him too was the target share. Because I believe he had like over 60 targets.
He did
right on the button.
Yeah,
of 60
targets. Yeah.
And he caught 50 passes, and that is what it takes. Like for me, if I know he's going to be a workhorse, he's going to get 240 carries, he's going to get around 50, 60 catches. Like if I know that's going to happen, I can project James Robinson top 5, especially in an offense that is better.
It's going to make me excited.
I will be very excited if he's the only man,
but
and I would draft him in the first round. But if they start adding guys in the second, third round in terms of running backs, like I do with Madden, just first round draft your quarterback, second round draft that running back, like Zeke and
the guys
Dak.
that fall, like a whole round in their projection,
right? But James Robinson, 5th on the list. Honorable mention, kind of surprising. Not really surprising, but we don't want to say we told you so, but we told you so. Jonathan Taylor, 67% of the time, he had 11 points or more. First half of the season, he had like one good game, and then he had like one or two good games, and then like scared the frick out of all of us.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the end of the season for him that he started to actually pull it on.
Yeah, really through the first like 12 weeks or so, he was not great. And then the last few weeks, he just took off.
Because he had in the first couple weeks of the season 14, 19, 13. I drafted him in the 6th round in a league, and I was very excited about it. And he had like 3 good weeks, and I was like, okay, I'll take this because it's the RB1, RB2 performances the first couple weeks of the season. And then he got to week 4, and it was 8, 15, 15, 5, 9, 5.
Look at week 11 to week 17.
Yeah, week 11 to week 17. 15, 22, 30, 19, 19, 38. That's in PPR. Over that stretch of games, 11 to 17 from the running back position, if I order this, Jonathan Taylor is the RB3.
Yep.
I love myself some David Montgomery, who's number 2. And I love myself some Jonathan Taylor. They both happen to finish with 67% of the time finishing as an RB1 or RB2 this year.
Yep.
And Jonathan Taylor, I think he's going to be ridiculously good, especially if the Colts still are quarterbackless, correct? Jacob Eason is the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. Yep. So we'll see what happens with Indy in terms of the quarterback position. They'll probably pick somebody up. I'm surprised they haven't made a move already. Especially like I thought they were going to go after Carson Wentz, to be honest with you. But
I think they still are. I think Carson Wentz. Some people have linked Sam Darnold if the Jets draft a guy at 2.
Yeah, they need a quarterback, but they also need to not use Nyheim Hines or like I'm going to be honest. Like I don't mind Nyheim Hines as a pass catching running back, but I think Jonathan Taylor is better, and I don't mind.
I just want Taylor to go.
Who's the other guy? Jordan Wilkins. I mind him. He's all set with Jordan Wilkins. I don't understand. Like
Hines is good.
You can try way too hard sometimes in the NFL to pull an RBBC. And I'm not just saying this because of fantasy football. Like, don't just do something to do something. You have to physically have 2 good running backs on your team. Like when you had Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara together, those are 2 guys that can start in the NFL on the same team.
Yeah.
And you made it work. And that's good. Even with Latavius Murray, he's a good second running back for the New Orleans Saints behind Alvin Kamar. There are some teams with a good second running back that you can split RBBC. But when your second running back is Jordan Wilkins or Nyheim Hines,
hey, come on, put some. I think
Hines is not a good running back. He's a good pass catching back.
He was pretty in the playoff game against the Bills. He had like 80 yards rushing on like 11 carries.
I'm not.
He's like consistently getting like 18-yard runs. No, I know, but he's I
just mean they should be using Jonathan Taylor.
No,
it's
I
not
agree
that
with you.
hard. Looking at these numbers at the end of the season, it's not that hard.
I still like Hines.
He was number 6, I believe, on this list, and then David Johnson, surprisingly.
He was good the end of the year.
I'm not adding any more
very good
honorable mentions, but David Johnson was
very good.
He's all right. His career is over. If it's already over, but if Christian McCaffrey goes to Houston, David Johnson's just going to be buried into the ground.
Yeah, pretty much.
His career will be over. So there is the top 5 most consistent running backs of the 2020 fantasy football season. It was an interesting ride. If you had one of those running backs, I think you did okay. Jonathan Taylor maybe not because I lost, but Jonathan Taylor was like a roller coaster. Jonathan Taylor was I told you I built my whole team around the playoffs, and Jonathan Taylor even broke out. I traded him away to get other guys, but
you should have held on to him.
You know how much I'm gonna like invest in Jonathan Taylor like he's Miles Sanders this year.
Yep, take him 3rd overall.
Is that like different? Is that a different? Like, are there different parallels between that? Because I'm
second year running backs.
Yeah. Miles Sanders blew. Not his own fault. It's not fully his fault, but It is what it is. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Don't forget to check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and we will talk to you Thursday with our wide receivers.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.